I just want to say right up front, I am not covering Delphi. That is the case that prompted me to get into web sleuthing or Facebook sleuthing, whatever you want to call it. But I never really intended on covering Delphi for a few reasons. There's the trolling that is intense, and one death threat was enough. So I'm going to cover Delphi with the bare basics. Well, I hope you're subscribed now, Kanga. So yeah, I'm just going to give you the bare basics of Delphi so that we can understand what we're doing. But if you want coverage on Delphi, you're going to need to go to my top suggestions are Scene of the Crime. I love that one. And HLN, Down the Hill. Excellent, thorough podcasts on the Delphi murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Now, you guys probably know a lot of the YouTubers, but some of my favorites are Incognito, Gray Hughes, True Crime Investigates with Anthony Greeno. I think some of his videos are still up. There's also Murder Squad. I love those two guys. And they're retired profile. At least one of them is a retired profiler. It really is dangerous. It really is. And it has a lot of really good coverage already. And there's other cases that, like with Nicole, that was a blessing that came through. Yes, it did come to my knowledge because of Delphi, but once I got to know Ginger and Cheryl, like, my focus totally changed. And then I got to know Shannon's family and Ray's, and there's so many cases out there that just don't get the attention. And I mean, no disrespect to the families of Abby and Libby. I just don't feel like I could add anything that's really going to do it justice. The ones that I just mentioned. And Kelsey covers her sister's murder very well. And I'm going to leave that to them. This is always about the victims' families. And my heart goes out to them. I live in Indiana. I have family in Delphi. I went there as a kid quite a lot just because I was homeschooled. And it's all historic Delphi. They're, the early settlers settled in Delphi. And then you've got the poet, Mr. Riley. So we went on field trips there. So I've actually been to a lot of the trails, and even to that side of the trail where the bridge is. I can remember seeing that bridge when I was young and just being like, oh my gosh. Like, it was terrifying to me just standing on the edge. And I've been back since. But yeah, no, I'm not. I wouldn't cross it. And I've jumped out of airplanes. I do all kinds of dangerous stuff. I love that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to cross that bridge unless I crawled or had something to where I knew I wasn't going to fall through the rotted thing. But maybe someday they'll get it finished. And then, on YouTube, I think there's just such great coverage already. But also True Crime Junkies, they cover it. And True Crime Garage, great one. And then if you're really into like the victimology, just on cases in general, and profiling, philosophy, forensics, psychology. I really suggest victimology. Oh my gosh, she is so good. She does the best interviews with so many different people. And I also love James Renner. What's his called? Philosophy of Crime. Really, really good. He covers, is it Amy McLabiel? Oh, yes, absolutely, Kanga. It's so sad. Oh, yes, Lord and Arts. I really like him too. And I love the captain. I think he is a super smart dude. And I wish he would make a comeback. I don't remember Hoosier the Bruiser as far as coverage, but I do like him now. I find him very interesting. And of course, my girl, Angela. She's covering a lot of different cases too in crime. They're all great on YouTube. But you guys should really, podcasts are so cool too. I wish more people would get into them because there's just, sorry, I was reading a comment. Off Delphi with PayPal donations makes my blood boil. Yeah, I definitely haven't made any money. I think I'm still negative 300 and some in the hole, but the podcast, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought I would make enough to cover what it costs to be on StreamYard, but that's a big negative. And I have quite a lot of downloads. I mean, for someone that, doesn't have a following in my personal life, really, I have a lot of followers from everywhere. It is hard to keep up, and I just love him because I don't think, not that I know of, I would love it if he did Kanga. But yeah, I love hearing when callers call in to Angie's show. I think that's really cool. The collaborating is so awesome, and it just makes me happy. Oh, last Friday. Her voice, I have a lot of issues with hearing and very sensitive, and I just can't. I think she's really good, and I love that she's so passionate, but sometimes I can and I do if it's something I'm really, really interested in, and I just turn it down. But I do love Cece Moore. She is so cool. Although in regards to Delphi, I just don't think that she could play a role because personally, I feel that they have DNA. That's just my take on it. I think that they just don't have enough of the DNA to do more than they need more. They need a alibi broken. They need a witness to come forward. I don't think the piece of the puzzle is going to be solved by DNA, unfortunately. And I think that what they have is the best that they're going to get. And I think that here in Indiana, and there's no fault to anyone, I know everyone says that this just doesn't happen here, but it really just doesn't. And I think that there were so many people out there. I think there's a lot of crime scene contamination. The area is very difficult to navigate. And the coroner at the time he was still in college. Like, he had just kind of inherited it, even though it's a elected position. He was at Purdue. I think he was maybe 21, 22 or 23. But the coroner, because they are an elected official and they are in that county, they have to be the ones that go to the scene. Dr. Kors was in, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I always get Terre Haute and Fort Wayne mixed up. I don't know why. I think Terre Haute. So he had to drive here. And then the whole night before, the next day, there was a whole group. I just think that they have enough to rule people out. That's just my opinion, though. We don't know ADS. I mean, I don't know him personally. And I don't know of anyone that can say definitively where he was other than him and whoever saw him that day. But okay, so with another good one on the I don't know the name of it, but it's on the death penalty. It's a documentary. I always say that word wrong, and I just gonna stick with it because I can't say it right. So it's documentary. So that's how I'll always say it. Yes, and I have spoken to her, and she's really awesome, and she really does, like, the Delphi talk bothers her just because she's very passionate about him getting what he's deserved for Ray and Nicole, and I really respect that a lot. And she has helped me and given, a lot of people were in the group when she posted. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute. Confessional tapes, Mel. I don't know what that means. Okay, so with all of that said, I'm not covering Delphi. I'm just covering Delphi in regards to Garett Kirts. I know a lot about this scumbag. Is it to be or not to be? That is the question. And I'm going to attempt to list the pros and cons of Garett based on some facts, premises, and reasoning, both deductive and inductive. Obviously, there's a lot we can not conclude absolutely or at all, frankly. We're not investigators. We are not the one, I say it in the beginning of everything, we're not the ones tasked with the responsibility of prosecuting, finding, investigating killers. And I would never speak of a suspect that has not been named by the media, with him being the exception, because I am covering him extensively for Nicole and Ray, and he keeps getting brought up. I wish there could be another platform for him being brought up instead of Ray's group. I'm just going to put that out there right now. I don't like it. If I were Ray's family or Nicole's family, I would be really hurt because, of course, they want justice for Abby and Libby. They are Indiana residents. We are all so passionate about those two little girls who touched all of us. But at the same time, I think it would feel to me like no one is really here that really cares about my child. And yes, he's definitely no BS. He could be a dick, but he does really good coverage, and it's very fact-based and logical, and it's reasonable. And although I don't like his tactics sometimes, I respect his work. He's put a lot into the Delphi case, especially, and the maps are, you're not going to find any better. Him and Anthony Greeno have just go there for all of that, and that's where I go. So I wrote down a quote from, well, it's kind of like a mix of quotes, my own and James Renner from Philosophy of a Crime. And, what's that guy's name? John Clemente, I'm not sure of his first name. He's one of the first criminal profilers. And I was listening to him of like, do we really understand what the purpose of all of this is and how to look at it from a deductive and inductive reasoning type way? Because with deductive, you work backwards in hopes that by studying the crime and the victims, you can find the killer. And that's kind of what that's psychological criminal profiling. And it's usually a last resort. It's when they have run out of options and they want to have something that they can look at. And sometimes it can be a hindrance. I personally love profiling. I love psychology, but I have seen where investigators that don't quite understand the process of what a profile is, they stick to it so gung-ho that they end up missing the true suspect because the profile is wrong. But so I'm going to attempt to pull up the FBI article about I guess they had like a symposium with like 135 some people that met and went over all of the different parameters that go into what is a serial murderer, the definition of a serial killer, the definition of serial murder, same thing, spree killer, and just really kind of fine tuning that. And now because they were able to build that profile from back in the day with the beginning when they were interviewing serial killers. Mindhunters is amazing. And there's many, many books, some written by them that are just awesome. I love studying this kind of stuff. And this is where I started before I ever got into crime sleuthing, is just serial killers and studying the psychology of evil and the genetics of it. I love genetics. I love forensic genetics and the SNP, down to those long chain. Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love the familial mitochondrial type DNA and what it's been able to do and all of the different things that are just changed in forensics. Like, it's quite amazing. I mean, you can get DNA from a hair shaft now. Not the follicle, but the hair shaft. That is pretty awesome. And we're only getting more and more advanced as the years go by. That's why I think it's so important for investigators to go back over and resubmit, because a lot of times, especially in small counties, I know Delphi probably doesn't have that problem. I think there's been millions and millions of dollars spent on Delphi. But those cases that don't go mainstream media, they don't have the budgets to just turn over sample after sample after sample. And a lot of things get put into cold storage or simply never tested at all. And they simply just sit and wait. Meanwhile, if they were entered into CODIS, who knows? But there are a lot of crimes being solved by CODIS, especially with rape cases, because that's usually where a lot of sickos start or stuff like that. But I was going to try to pull up the article so you can kind of see what I'm reading. So I'm going to attempt to do that right now. Well, scary. Nope. Not that one. Okay, can you guys see that? Can you guys see that? Were you able to see my screen? Okay. So this is from the FBI.gov website, and they will do like stories, news, whatnot. So this is a part of their article. That looks good. And in this one. Give me 1 second. I'm definitely not going to be reading all of this. Okay, well, I can't find it. So it's from this website, and I'm just going to read it. Okay. I'm just going to read the part that I copied and pasted and printed because it's too long. So basically it was, they tried to come up with the similar factors to be included in the definition. These included one or more offenders, two or more murder victims. Incidents should be occurring in separate events at different times. The time period between murder, separate serial murder for mass murder. In combining the various ideas put forth at the symposium, the following definition was crafted. Serial murder, the unlawful killing of two or more victims by the same offender in separate events. I always try to get crafty and freaking not waste paper and do front and back, and every single time I get so lost. I always get the pages out of order. I don't even know how I do it. Every single time. Following the arrest of a serial killer, the question is always asked, how did this person become a serial murderer? The answer lies in the development of the individual from birth to adulthood. Specifically, the behavior a person displays is influenced by the life experiences as well as certain biological factors. Serial murderers, like all human beings, are the product of their hereditary, their upbringing, and the choices they make throughout development. Causality as it relates to development of serial murders was discussed at length at the symposium. We're not going to get too much into that other than for me to just say that there is nature versus nurture, and that plays a huge role. And we are going to actually work through a template of a profile where I've added what little we do know about Garett Kirts to see if he fits with Delphi. Because I'm reading, I'm not looking too closely right now. So sorry if I miss anybody. I'm probably not going to be going back up either. So if you want me to see something, let me know. Like, say it again, basically. But neglect, child abuse, those are things that are aggravating in a childhood. Then you mix that with your genetic makeup and your nature, and your nurture can really affect the way that your genes are expressed. A lot of us, we have a genetic code that is unique to us, but we also have genes that are turned on and off by our environment. That is single nucleotide polymorphisms. And those are what Ancestry, 23andMe, and CC Moore, that's what she does. That's where that all comes into play, is the study of those changeable genetics that makeup. Yes, you can do the deeper dive, obviously, but I've actually started creating templates based on the FBI. They list a lot of the S&Ps that you can use to create a description. I mean, a basic, do you have freckles? Do you have red hair? What color are your eyes? And I highly suggest not only doing the GED match, but do the Parabon. You download an app, and if you already have your DNA, then you just upload what you already have from your data file. And it's super cool, and it's really fun too. And it's so helpful because Parabon is doing a fantastic job with revolutionizing cold cases and cases in general and investigative strategy. And I think it is super cool. And if I know a killer, so be it. There isn't anything that I would change. So I don't mind sharing my DNA. That's just me. I know a lot of people are like, hell no, never, ever. But if I could help solve a case through my ancestry, hell yeah, sign me up every time. And that one takes it a step further now, though. So you actually build mine was so creepy because you could see inside your head. You build this like 3D image of your facial features. And it was so cool. But you describe yourself, and it gives you, I think there was like 6 different things to finish up and do, and then a lot of pictures, and you can choose to not share those. But I think what they're doing and the way that they're investigating is so cool. And I really suggest doing that, GED match and Parabon. I need a drink. Yeah, I like him too. Best case, worst case. That's Clementi, isn't it? So you have that predisposition. You have the study of the brain, which is fascinating. And not all psychopaths end up using their psychopathy for bad. I mean, one of the leading neuroscientists in the field of studying the killer gene is a psychopath, according to his own algorithm, which is just fascinating to me. But he uses his psychopathy in a positive way. So not all psychopaths are killers, and not all damaged children. I mean, we're getting all like Socrates here, or the opposite, I guess. But what I really wanted to point out before we get going on Garett, Kirts, and Delphi is there is no generic template. I get so sick of like, oh, well, the victims don't quite fit, like blah, blah, blah. When you pigeonhole something like that, you miss everything outside. So that's a myth. Serial killers are driven by their own unique motives or reasons. Serial killers are not limited to any specific demographic group, such as their sex, age, race, or religion. The majority of serial killers who are sexually motivated eroticize violence during development. For them, violence and sexual gratification are inexplicitly intertwined in their psyche. And I know I've said that before about like Delphi. You can have a sexually motivated crime that is outside of what we typically think of as a crime against children. I'm not even sure that played a factor with Abby and Libby, even though they were under the age of 16, so it would apply. But I'm not sure that it was a sexual deviant as far as like a child molester or sexual predator of children, but that a lot of times the act of killing will be their sexual gratification, the humiliation of a victim. Those kind of things are all what this is talking about right here. And then they admit more research is needed to identify specific pathways of development that produce serial killers. So psychopathy and serial murder. Psychopathy is a personality disorder manifested in people who use a mixture of charm, manipulation, intimidation, and occasionally violence to control others in order to satisfy their own selfish needs. Although the concept of psychopathy has been known for centuries, Dr. Robert Hare led the modern research effort to develop a series of assessment tools to evaluate the personality traits and behaviors attributed to psychopaths. They created a checklist, and it has been revised, and it is derivatives. So basically, that's kind of what we're going to be doing, is a template of a assessment of Garett Kirts. But first, we have to understand what we're doing. The interpersonal traits include glibness, superficial charm, a grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, and the manipulation of others. The effective traits include a lack of remorse, Why do I do this? I swear. I can never find where I'm supposed to go. I swear, every time. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to start putting numbers on my own Google Docs, which I don't even know how to do. Or maybe I could just use a stapler. Welcome, everyone. I've been reading, so I'm not paying very close attention yet. But I'm glad you guys are having fun in the chat. I'm jealous. I love being in the chats with everyone. I think it's fun. It's like my stress reducer in the evenings is finding a good chat, and crime, and definitely Truth and Justice always has good ones. Okay, back to this. Oh God. No clue. Okay, finally found it. Sorry. So weird. All right, well. The same logical steps are taken when investigating homicide cases. As most homicides are committed by someone known to the victim, police focus on the relationships closest to the victim. This is a successful strategy for most murders, but not all. The majority of serial murders, however, are not antiquated with or involved in a consensual relationship with their victims. Serial killers make up less than 1%, and I'm going to go with Thomas Hargrove with Murder Data because he's doing some awesome work. And unfortunately, in the society we live in, there is not justice for all. It's just some. And there are many, many victims and serial killers out there that they target victims that no one cares about. And they do that for a reason, and they get away with it for a very long time. So I would say it is probably closer to 2%, which is still very, very low. Serial killing is rare. Double homicide in the middle of the day is rare. Serial murder crime scenes can have bizarre features that may cloud the identification of a motive. The behavior of a serial murder at crime scenes may evolve throughout the series of crimes and manifest different interactions between an offender and a victim. It is also extremely difficult to identify a single motivation when there is more than one offender involved in the series. Motive generally may be difficult to determine in serial murder investigations. A serial murderer may have multiple motives for committing his crime. Serial murder's motives may evolve. The classification of motivation should be limited to observable behavior at the crime scene. Even if a motive can be identified, it may not be helpful in identifying a serial murderer. We always get so stuck on motive. What was the motive? But sometimes that's not even helpful because you just don't know. Wish we knew what those signatures were. Utilize an investigative resource to discern the motive instead of identifying the offender may derail the investigation. Yeah. Research has demonstrated that offenders who are psychopathic scores ranging in high degree to low degree. Some are, not all are violent. Not all psychopaths are violent offenders. If violent offenders are psychopathic, they are able to assault, rape, and murder without concern for legal, moral, or social consequences. This allows them to do what they want whenever they want. They lack empathy and failure to accept responsibility. The lifestyle behaviors include stimulation-seeking behavior, impulsivity, irresponsibility, parasitic orientation, a lack of realistic life goals. The antisocial behaviors include poor behavioral controls, early childhood behavioral problems, juvenile delinquency, revocation of conditional release, yes, and criminal versatility, yes. The combination of these individual personality traits, interpersonal styles, and social deviant lifestyles are the framework of psychopathy and can manifest themselves differently in individual psychopaths. They may possess some, serial murderers may possess some, but they may not have Hardly all. And the myth is that they're like these antisocial outcasts that are you're just going to be able to spot. No. Sometimes they come off really smooth. And some people actually think Jerkett Kirts is smooth. Not me, but I can see where he could be charming for maybe a month or two of knowing him. Psychopaths are not sensitive to altruistic interview themes, such as sympathy for their victims or remorse or guilt over their crimes. I think we kind of learned that from what Doug Carter said in the presser that reframed the entire case. That's what that's called. It's called reframing, to where they are on one path in an investigation, and then they get to a point where they have to look outside of that frame. And when they do that, the term is called reframing. And I think that's exactly what they did with Delphi. I think that they had a set things that they wanted to stick to, that they had deduced before they had induced. And they stuck to those, and they ended up leading them on the wrong path. And I think a lot of that, and this is just my personal opinion, is the witnesses. I don't believe that there were all of those people there. I don't believe that they saw what they say they saw. I think that some of the younger ones were influenced by toxic parents. And that's just my opinion. Everybody, they're like butts. Everybody's got one. Motivations and type of serial murder. That is a page that I can't find, of course. I'm so fucking annoyed. You know what I think happened is my printer didn't print all the papers. So I'm just going to nope, found it. God. They commit their crimes because they want to. It's just plain and simple. They want to. It doesn't mean that they have to have some kind of mental illness. But most, regardless of their motive, they just want to. And it is important to try to narrow down the pool of suspects, especially if you do not know who the killer is. That's just how this whole process works. Anger is a motivation. Rage and hostility towards a certain subgroup of the population with society as a whole, the nihilistic type killer, fits into that category. That kind of sometimes even the savior type killer that thinks that they're saving their victims. It's still motivated because they want to, and more than often than not, it's sexually motivated. Even if it doesn't display itself in a sex act, it's still sexually gratifying. But with those savior types, meaning the type that, they're going down a wrong path, I'm doing them a favor. Those kind of killers, like, ugh, I hate that kind of killer. Those bother me the most. I don't know why. The criminal enterprise, the offender benefits in status or monetary compensation. I don't think that applies. And some of those would be drug, gang, organized crime. I don't think any of that applies. Financial gain, the motivation, that's another motivation. The Black Widow, for instance. Ideology is a motivation, and that kind of goes with what I was saying about that anger and the nihilism, which is just the world is shit, so why not do whatever? It's just whatever. But they commit murders in order to further the goals and ideas of a specific individual or group. Examples of these individuals are terrorists or individuals who attack a specific racial, gender, or ethnic group. Power and thrill is a motivation in which the offender feels empowered or excited when he kills his victims. I think that fits with Garett Kirts just because of his modus. We'll get into that in a minute. Psychosis is a situation in which the offender is suffering from a severe mental illness and is killing because of that illness. So we talked about that the other night on crimes, that psychotic break, if you will. Sexually based is a motivation driven by sexual needs, desires of the offender. They may or may not be overt sexual contact reflected in the crime scene. An offender selects a victim regardless of the category based upon availability, vulnerability, and desirability. Availability is explained as the lifestyle of the victim or the circumstance in which the victim is involved that allowed the offender access to the victim. I see that with Shannon's case. Clear as day. Desirability is described as the appeal of the victim to the offender. It involves numerous factors based upon the motivation of the offender and may include factors dealing with the race, gender, ethnic background, age of the victim, or specific preference of the offender is determined, is it Ridgway, who hated his mom, and he was just he finally realized he was just killing her over and over again. So his final act was to kill his mother. He started by killing his grandparents, and then he killed his mom and turned himself in. And he was a slick one, IQ off the charts. The Green River Killer, I think. I can't remember if that's Ridgway, or if anybody remembers. If I'm wrong, tell me. But he fits into that category. So, I think we got a little bit of the background of this profiling business. And then we also need to talk about spree killers, because he could still be a spree killer if he did not kill, I don't know, if he didn't kill Abby and Libby. A spree killer is oh my gosh. Basically, where the difference between a serial killer is they kill 2 to 3 victims over a period of time. And that's just, Gary Ridgway, thank you. I'm pretty sure it is too. No, he had a really, really high IQ. I might be thinking of the wrong one. He was on Mindhunter. He was one of the main. He's huge. He's really, really tall. That's the one I'm talking about. I can't remember if that was his name or not. Night Kinga. No, not Bundy. Yeah, I was literally just reading about him earlier today because I find him fascinating. I mean, he was where a lot of the original work of the behavioral analysis unit actually came from because he was so willing to talk about it. Kemper, yes, Kemper, thank you. Oh my gosh. But Bundy is another one that is fascinating to me. And I would equate him to being like the kind of the exception to the rule because he killed, like, his geographical, it wasn't centered a lot of times. Like, that's one of the myths with profiling as well, is that they go interstate, they go multi states, and that's just a lot of times not the case. Now you'll have those truckers, which we've seen, I-65, I-70 killer, the redheaded killer, which may even be the same. You do have that, Ted Bundy, but it was based on where he lived, is where he killed. That was his target area. So with Garett Kirts, his target area is Carroll County, if we include Abby and Libby, White, which is right next to Carroll County, and Newton County, which is just up a little bit north of White County. He grew up in the Brookston area, and his parents were divorced, and his mom has lived in Lebanon. He doesn't really have a home, so he just couch surfs until he pisses those people off enough. And he's one of those people that they're able to fit in for a while, but eventually their hot temper and impulsiveness come through, and their anger, and that's who he is. He is not one of a controlled type at all. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the victims, and since I'm really not going to do a whole lot, I just want to do the basics, and the best basics of Abby and Libby's case is going to be on the Carroll County, sheriffs, the ISP, and the FBI. So I'm going to pull up, well, we'll look at all of them because this poster is Carroll County. I just want everyone to see this for the record. This is the poster, Carroll County, Indiana, February 13th, 2017. There is a picture of Libby, Abby, and the suspect. There is no sketch. None. No sketch, which I think is smart. Libby was born on December 27th of 2002. She had blonde hair, 5'4". She was a female from Lafayette, Indiana. Blue eyes, 200 pounds. Her race was white. She was known as Libby. On February 13th of 2017, Liberty, age 14, and Abigail Williams, age 13, were hiking on the Delphi historic trails near the Monon High Bridge just east of Delphi in Carroll County, Indiana. Liberty and Abigail were reported missing to police after their parents were unable to locate them at the pickup location. Volunteers subsequently discovered the girls' bodies in the woods east of Delphi in Carroll County, Indiana on February 14th of 2017. Investigators have distributed a photo shown above of a person observed on the Delphi Historic Trail. The photo appears to depict a white male wearing blue jeans, a blue coat jacket, and a hoodie. During the course of the investigation, preliminary evidence has led investigators to believe the aforementioned person is the suspect of being involved in the murders of Libby and Abby. The phone number is 844-459-5786. And their email, please call. If you know who this bastard is, for the love of God, please call. Abigail Williams was born on June 23rd of 2003. She had blonde hair, 5'4", female. She is from St. Paul, or no, sorry. I don't know what that is. Something Marie, Michigan. Hazel eyes, 100 pounds, white. And the rest is the same. So we have that one. And then when we go over to the ISP, let's see if they have the old sketch. Oh. Nope, they don't. They only have the new sketch. And the information is pretty much the same. The tip line is Abby and Libby tip at CACOSHRF.com. I don't know why they decided to go with that. They really could just make that so much simpler, but whatever. So that is him. That is the suspect. Those are the murder victims. And that is the bare bones. Oh, this one gives a little bit more detail. 12:15 p.m. is when they were found, and they were dropped off at approximately 1. 20, like, what is that? 25 hours. They distributed a photograph of a person observed on the Delphi historic trails. We've already read that. And you can see the way that he walks. There has been a lot of people that have come forward in groups. I don't know if it'll pull it up or not. That have said that Garett Kirts was injured. And I think she would know because the person, I'm not sure if it was a male or female, had said that Garett was injured. He was hit in the hip. I think with a bike handle is what she had said, and it had caused permanent damage. So he did have, and you can see that in that fighting video, if you can find that online anymore, where he popped his shoulder out. When he's walking, he throws his leg out, and that would make sense that it was from an injury. I also feel like there's something in his face. I don't want to say Bell's palsy because I don't know for sure if that's what it is, but it looks like there may be some nerve damage in his lip where it draws down on one side, like if you were to have a stroke or with Bell's palsy, basically. That's just my opinion. But that's the guy. There's nothing about his clothes. Garett dressed like that. I really can't see him carrying a fanny pack, but he was a horse breaker, which is another part of his criminal profile that makes him fit into the category of a serial killer. But that's the guy. That's all we have. I don't see an old man. Never have. Some people do. And that's why I feel like they should have never done any sketches. I mean, we have this. I think it really confused people, and I think releasing this and guys from the beginning would have been much more prudent than the route they went to. But hindsight is always 20/20, and you just never know. Oh my God. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like how many times I have watched this damn guy to where I feel like I know him. Sick. And I swear to God, I try not to get into that. I mean, because people have thought there was like bus. I mean, just an enormous amount of hickams dicum has gone on with this one video or the stills. Like people have seen so many things, and I don't see any of it. But the only thing that I've ever really thought was he has something on his back. I don't know if any of you guys are hunters or hikers, but backpacks, and sometimes they will have like a slit in the top of the shoulders to where you can put not a sword, but a knife in them, usually a hook knife, because you're usually deer hunting. At least that's my experience with those types of things. Or even when we go hiking in Colorado, the backpacks will have a knife because they come in handy when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And they will have them right on the top of the shoulder, like right here. And they come out and you just can grab that knife, and it's super convenient. And that's what I often wonder if that's what that is. And I have downloaded the audio file into Audacity because I wanted to do my own comparison with Garett Kirts. And actually, I added the static that we hear in the track to the Garett's voice when he says guys. But just for thoroughness, we're going to go over to the FBI and see if Old Man is on that one. Oh no. Was I not sharing my screen that whole time? Was I sharing my screen? I wasn't, was I? I don't think I was. Sorry. So we looked at the Carroll County and we looked at ISP, and now we're on our way. Hopefully you see my screen now. We're on our way to look at the FBI. There is no old man on any of these three places. There's no old guy. It is the only one that is on two of them is the new sketch, which is, I guess, old. Who knows? But the old man is not on here, and it's just my opinion. I've never thought he was. I think his clothes do not help at all. I mean, I have them in my closet right now. I could go if I wanted to. I could turn on my video and go and show you those same clothes. Like, they are not uncommon. If he was in New York, yeah, he would stand out like a sore thumb in an outfit like that. And if anyone dressed like that, everyone would know, and who knew that person, that, oh yeah, that's definitely them. Now, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen still? Hello? Anybody? Can you see my screen? Okay, cool. So the ISP, we've done that one. Now the FBI does give a description. Again, you see there is the sketch, which is the new old sketch apparently. But just remember, guys, like, they do not owe us the truth. Everybody thinks that they do, and they simply don't. That's not how you run a good investigation. They don't have to tell us the truth. Oh gosh. So loud. We just got a new air conditioner and it is ridiculously loud. So sorry if that's bothering you. But there is the suspect and there is the sketch. I think it's pretty generic, and I don't think sketches are helpful. I don't like them. I never have. And a lot of times the person, even with the, I can't remember, with the Parabon, those sketches, like a lot of times they're really not. Yeah, you see what you want to because you think it's so cool. But if you really like dissect a lot of them, they don't really go real well. I think it's fascinating, and when they're right, like, I love it and I want to jump on that, but it's really hard to do because you cannot see in those S&Ps the environment, the geographic, the what you eat, how you, if you're out in the sun, like all of those things. So you may be predisposed to have freckles, but say you always took really good care of your skin, you're not going to have freckles, as many. So they're all of those things. And that's why I think it's so hard to really get those digital sketches right on the money. But anyway, he is approximately 18 to 40 years old and may appear younger. Garett, he does have that. 5'6" to 5'10". I've seen the guy. He's not 6'1". He's not even 6 foot. He may not even be maybe a couple inches taller than me. I'm 5'7", 5'7" and a half. And I was almost eye to eye with him. Not quite, though. So if you think from 5'6" to 5'10", in the middle of that is what? 5'8" and a quarter, like 5'8" and a half, 5'9" is where the median is, where I've always thought it's like 5'9"-ish, which I don't know if you guys know a lot of people that are 5'9", but we just see them and we think, oh, they're 6 foot. Anything 5'9" to 10, 11, they just like 6 foot, I couldn't tell a difference from far away, but when I saw him up against that wall, he does not appear. And then when he walked past me, which I could have reached out and touched him, so gross, he's not that tall. But that's that cat. And that's the Delphi killer. Hey, Ginger. I don't think that's him. What's that mean? Nicky Dick? Oh. I gotta watch my mouth. What does that mean? Okay. So before we do this profile, which we may just kind of do a part 2, I'm not sure. But like I said, I'm super anal, and that's why I prefer to do podcasts, because then I can just be anal in my own time. But I have really bad OCD, so things like papers being out of order and not getting the correct information and trying to be factual it'll keep me up for days, like literally days. I do know that name, but I'm not going to say it online, Christine. You can find it on Facebook or message me, but he hasn't been named anything. And but yeah, he's pretty creepy, and I'm pretty sure he's been molesting boys. And apparently so is White's, the rehab center in Wabash. I mean, if half of the stuff is true of what was said in Garett Kirts' timeline thread, that one post, yeah, I don't know. I don't like those kind of places anyways. I think they're just a breeding ground for child predators, but that's just me. But yeah, that dentist there's something wrong with him. I mean, you just don't bring in a bunch of young boys into your house. Like, but I'm not altruistic. I don't believe in altruism. So I find it hard that someone doesn't have a motive. Casa. No, it's called White's Rehab. I have it in my, I'll pull it up here in a minute, but yeah, that place is strange. It's in I think it's Warsaw or Wabash, whichever one is right up there. No, it's not Casa. It's called White's. It's a reform place, like a rehab for juvenile offenders, or I guess parents can just send them there. They have a bunch of different programs, and we don't know what he was there for. He was in cabin 6. I did find that out. I don't really know what that means, but hopefully if there's anybody listening that knows what cabin 6 is and what part of the rehab place it belongs to. You don't think he looks like the sketch or the Nick? Which one? I didn't see. I can't keep up with comments. Oh, you don't think he looks like the new old sketch? See, I do. That old man one just always, I was like, no, I don't know. I just never felt like the guy I saw on the bridge looked old, but that is the thing with us human beings is perception is reality, and what you perceive something to be based on, your own life and your life experiences and what influences you is a lot of times. And I think that's why sketches are really harmful. And the image is it's just too far away. I've always had that question, and it probably has a simple answer that someone would be like, duh. The voice, from how far away we know the sketch to be, the voice doesn't seem as far away. I'm sure it's enhanced, and I think because it is enhanced, it has the all of that noise, because I've had that problem with audios when they've been too low and I try to over enhance them or amplify them. You get this really weird sound in them. I do feel like I see words. I'll go ahead and pull that up now. And then you guys can just see what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this one, oh gosh, what have I done? Okay, so this is, I basically just cut out. I wanted to see how long was between guys, which I hear, hey guys, but I think that might just be because that's something that I hear a lot of people say. So I've added the hey guys in my perception of the truth. But I wanted to see how much time was in guys and down the hill. And as you can see, it's about 2 seconds. Hopefully you can hear this. So that's him. That's the creepy, haunting voice that everybody feels like they know. And I'm going to have to look around for the other one because somehow I've deleted a bunch of files. Who knows what I've done. Oh, you know what? I think I did. I think I pulled them up over here. What the heck? It's so annoying. I probably didn't save it. You know how many times I have done that? I've got done editing a whole thing and just forgot to save it and lost it all. That's why I'm so slow. So slow. Because I do it all the time. Wow. No clue. And that sucks. That took me forever to do. It's so weird. Let me check one more place. Well, see, there's the data. No, this is the original. And I'm just going to amplify it. See how those form? Like, we know this is a word here, right? That's guys. And then you have this. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, or 6. What could be words, or it could be that they purposely added that in and scrambled it, which I'm sure they did scrub it because they didn't want us, or it literally just could be over amplification on, like right now. If I were to record right now and that noise, my air conditioner would totally, if I amplified it, it would blow up like that and it would be so disgusting. But then down the hill is, you can see down the hill. Like, that's the word. Watch it. Oh, sorry. Not down. Down. Backwards. So watch that again without me getting it wrong. Down. Right there. Down the hill. See where there's those two peaks at the beginning? So that's why I just wonder if that really was something that was said. Nope. Hmm. I guess I didn't save it. So this is his public. It's on his public page.
Read an addiction. Let me vent for a second, guys. See all these posts, all these videos like up church saying shoot your local heroin dealer and addiction isn't a disease. Well, coming from a further.
So that's his voice. His family seems to think that it sounds like the killer. But I don't think so. That's just my opinion. Yeah, he says guys, so that's true. Yeah, they do have that there, Christine, and that's kind of the one that I was like wondering about whether he was in that unit, but they also have, you know, other type groups. Did you look that up and see that about the cabin 6? Okay, so we've looked at all that. I can't find the thing, but you've heard guys, and I'm pretty sure that someone on YouTube did an audio comparison. I wish they had added that static in, and that's what I was really excited for you guys to hear and see the word form on Audacity, but apparently I lost it. Yeah, he had said that in a comment to someone that well, he actually showed a piece of mail. I think it was cabin 6. But so could Jerkett Kirts be the Delphi killer? First, I wanted to do an exercise, but I don't really want to now because I just wanted us to try to put ourselves in the killer's shoes. Like, could you imagine killing someone? Because we're all capable of it. I truly believe that. But to what extent is the key. I would kill in any way possible, whether it's my bare hands, a gun, or whatever, if someone was trying to hurt my children. That's what I would kill for, and I know it. I would do anything to keep them safe, including die. That's just parenting 101. And if you don't feel that way about your kids, maybe go back and read that profile about psychopathy, because yeah, that's kind of a problem. But could he be the man on the bridge? I don't like using bridge guy. I don't know why. It just has always got on my nerves. But it is simpler to say, you know, BG, I guess. But he's a brutal murderer who killed 2 little girls that should be graduating high school right now and going off to college. That's what he is. He's a coward and a monster. And Bridge Guy just does not give his brutality justice. It just really doesn't. He, it just, I think, because my daughter is the same age and she looks so much like Libby and she's described so much like Libby that, and her best friend, was a really tiny little firecracker of a girl, but yet very shy and closed off when it, came to other people. And she looked so much like Abby, and so does my cousin. And so they were my kids' age. They were my oldest daughters. And it just, that bus stop that next day, all the parents were there. I mean, it just literally changed how we parented. My kids went to the trails all the time, and I fucking hate seeing people give them a hard time. If you don't like it that they let them go to the bridge on a nice day, then get away. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I think it's so rude, and if you keep your kids in a bubble, that's fine, but you don't get to project your feelings about two girls going to the bridge in a healthy way that if you haven't been there, then you just really don't know what you're talking about, and I can't stand it. And it's not the parents' fault. They did not do this. And what they did that day was 100% normal. 100% normal. What's abnormal is that they were brutally murdered, on a Monday. Like, that's what's abnormal. And that's the only person that holds the guilt. And no, I do not think that it had anything to do with Mike Patty. I get so sick of that one. And no, I'm not even going to talk about the alleged revenge for drugs, because that story, I know for a fact, I went back and looked, was the exact same story that I had heard before the new sketch and Garett Kirts, and I went back and verified that. Like, he is not mentioned before that presser, before he killed Nicole Bowen. And if you can show me proof of that, fine. I've never seen it. And that story had Gabe Ellis in it and another woman. There is no evidence to back up in their criminal histories that Ashley Garth, the revenge thing, it's just, I'm just not going to entertain it. Does that mean that I don't think that he could be the Delphi killer? No, it doesn't. And I wish more people would be open to looking at it in another way, because that simply, there's no Occam's razor in that. There's no basis. You don't turn over state's evidence and become an informant for turning someone in on a probation violation. Like, come on. That's no. You're going to turn someone in higher up. And that's exactly what happened with Gabe Ellis. Like, when he turned state's evidence, I mean, you can kind of see the pattern of it if you really look, but people don't want to give up on their ideas and let go of them. The apartment, we know she lived there in 2014, or maybe it was 15, but when she was on probation, she was living at another home, which is her grandma's house. It isn't in Delphi, but it's over there by Springboro Road. Still not far. And frankly, the apartment could be in Tennessee for all I care. Like, it really doesn't matter. I think that if the person did drive there, then it doesn't really matter where they came from unless they walked. And you're just not going to convince me that someone walked all the way over there from there. Just don't buy it. And no one else saw, except for this grouping of people on a bridge that I don't frankly believe were actually there. Rant over. Sorry. Holding that one in for a while. A lot of people do know that area. You're right, truth and justice. Yes, there's always going to be people in a community that here where I live, there's 2 big parks. And I will mention them like, oh, where's that at? Like they have no clue. As a kid growing up here and never really leaving, we have a bridge. It is super dangerous. It's more because it's falling down and there's there's a million ways to impale yourself on it. But like all of us kids in my generation, like we know it's there. It's just common knowledge. But there are those exceptions to the rule that like don't know or didn't know. And that part is divided by a highway. So of Delphi. And so it does kind of cut it off from the rest, but a lot of people knew about that bridge. And then again, and it's a nice day. So his motive. String missing in Kirts' psychopathy, not the Delphi killer. And you may be right. I'm not going to say not the Delphi killer because I have no idea who the Delphi killer is. We can speculate all we want, but like it could be Kirts. There's more things to back up Kirts than anyone I've ever looked into. But yet the cons, when we get there, there's so many. But anyways, I wanted us to like picture ourselves killing someone. Could you kill if you knew something was suffering? Like if your mom or you know what? No, like I couldn't even kill our pet hamster when poor Mean Jean was like, she needed to go. She was suffering and I couldn't do it. And I had to pay $200 to take her to the vet and for them to put my hamster to sleep. And it was this big old thing, but I couldn't do it. So I don't think I could do it for that. What about you guys? Like, and then how? Do you think you could like kill someone under the right circumstances? And with what? Because I think that distinguishes that psychopathy. I would probably, if someone killed my kids, I think I would want to go all Gerard Butler. In that, what's that movie with Gerard Butler? It's like one of my law-abiding citizens. Like if I was a killer, it sounds so terrible. I could see myself killing like that, to where he was mostly, except for that horrible scene in the jail cell, he was hands off, to where you don't have that human to human contact. You're not looking each other in the eye. You distance yourself mentally and physically from the act that you're committing. To where a gun to protect myself, I carry, and I would, if it meant protecting myself and family. I think that would even be a little bit harder than poison or something like that, or like my demented mind goes to, if I wanted revenge on someone that hurt or killed a member of my family, like I would freaking dig a hole in the middle of the woods and let them fall in and leave them there. Like, I'm not saying that I would do that. I'm just trying to see what, if I had it in me. But when you strangle the life out of somebody like our Jerka Kirts does, that's intimate. I mean, and it's not quick. It's fat. It's you are literally feeling the life go out of someone with your bare hands, or you're watching the life go out of them if you're using a instrument to strangle. and it takes roughly 4 to 6 minutes. That's a long time. That's a long time. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I personally like the whole, I think it's Dr. Kevorkian. Like, I'm kind of a fan. I think that we should be able to have we shouldn't have to be starved to death in order to die. And if you just don't get lucky and pass in the middle of the night. So that's my feeling on that, but I don't think I could actually do it. He stopped like him after he had worked for him, or was that never true? I don't know what you're talking about. You have to tell me a whole sentence, like, if you're talking to me, that is. Oh, you're talking about Ron Logan? Yeah. There is different people that have said that Garett Kirts knew Ron. So obviously that's one of the big things that connects them there that we haven't been able to do with very many other people. There are a few that I know of, but again, they don't have the psychopathy that we know Garett has. So he's impulsive, he's just sick. But stabbing, beating someone, you're literally like, that's so intimate. And I think that especially if you look into the psychology of like strangulation, it is a power trip. It is that like God complex kind of a thing. Because it's a slow death and it's clean, but no, I've never heard he stole guns. Someone had said that he stole, but if he did, it was years before, because the only other report, I think it was in the Carroll County Comment, where Ron Logan had reported a theft, but it didn't say what, and it was like years before Delphi. So I don't know, but it is rumored, and it was a cousin had said that Ron did know. He knew Ron because him and his dad were really good friends. So the horses, you can look at the comparisons that Greeno did. I came to the same conclusion. Those trails out there and the horses and it's all the same. So he knew that bridge really well, and that's kind of what sets him apart. And I think that's why people focus on him. I think they just focus on him for the wrong reason. But yeah, I know that Angie has said that RL did not like Garett. He thought he was a punk. And he did hang out with some of the other boys, and it was in Doug Rice, rest in peace, his group, that someone had come forward and they lived over there, and they had talked about Ron and running their kids off, and Garett did hang out with their kids. It was one of his BFFs. So there's that connection as well. So there's at least two to that area that I have come to know. But again, you're trusting that people are telling you the truth. So they could be lying. I'm not sure what was said. Yeah. This was in a group with Doug Rice's group, like a woman that, and she does, like, I looked it up and figured out where that she lived. But they lived near there, and she was saying that Ron had run her kids off, which you can find her sons on YouTube videos, and that'll really just kind of give you a clue as to who was in the right there, RL, because they're punks, and so was Garett. He was a little punk kid who loved to get a rise out of people. That's his MO. He likes attention and pissing people off. Like, he gets off on that kind of a thing. And Ginger had said, I don't want to say about I would do if it was my family, because it is my family member of mine. I know the justice system isn't right in my eyes. You're damn straight, Ginger. You're damn straight. But yeah, like, I want to think that I could have it in me to be a big Gerard Butler, but I highly doubt it if I can't even kill a hamster. I mean, I think it takes a certain kind of, or lack of, or you have to be in that moment of your life or their life, and or your children's life or their life, then absolutely, hands down, I'm going to kill. But yeah, the Indiana justice system is, well, just the United States. I mean, it's just a mess. And we're seeing that now more than ever. But I think that, and I've said this before, I think that what happened with RL was wrong. I mean, I just think it was wrong. Like, I don't think that they should have done this big I mean, it just seemed very purposeful and intentional. And it's like they called the media there, and it's just icky. I mean, he wasn't involved. And just because someone knows his property doesn't put him in any kind of a bad light to me at all. I mean, to me, he just comes across as a sweet, genuine person who is too trusting and kind of set in his ways, but definitely not malicious at all. And like he said it the best, I guess next time, let's not have anybody be murdered on my property. I mean, from where that place was to where his home is, I mean, it'd take you probably 5 to 10 minutes to walk from his front door to where they were found. We're not talking about like a hop, skip, and jump, like you can see your whole yard, kind of backyard. That's not what it is at all. It's far. It may not look far on Google Maps. And trust me, I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, this is super close. And then I zoom in on it. It's like 3 hours away. But it's far. And it's downhill and up and around and vines and brush. And then all of a sudden it just opens up. And then there's the creek. And that's where they're found. In defense, you could know. Oh, yeah. You could too. Yeah, we do. We need to pay attention to who we are electing, because most of these fools are elected officials, and they don't deserve to have those titles. So, yeah, you're right. And that's why I always said when my aunt was murdered and then her killer killed himself, even as a child, you just seem to think that there's this oh, I wish he was still alive so he could have had his day in court and walked those perp steps up to the court, the courtroom steps. And we got deprived. And that's probably why my family's been so fucked up ever since. And now, hell no. Like, I don't think so, because that bastard is never going to hurt anyone else again. And we don't have to go to court and watch injustice. We don't have to go to appeals or think about it. Like, he's dead and gone, and he's in hell probably, where he belongs. He's a coward, and he killed like a coward. And I just really don't think, it just changed my mind completely when I started getting into the criminal justice system and studying court, and the legalities of it is so corrupt. It just needs to be completely reframed. But anyways, so we know that Garett is a certain kind of sick. But what else can we deduce about him? This template I found, and you know what? Like, I think I'm just going to save that for another night, because it's, like I said, I'm OCD, so I can't just do anything a little bit. Like, I go insane. And but what do you guys want to do? Are you done? Or do you want me to keep going? Because I don't mind. I'm going to go out and, I'll keep going. Especially now with my OCD, I'm going to have to just say it all to myself anyways. But if you guys are over it, totally get it. It's been 2 hours. And we can do it tomorrow night. And this is like this exercise, this template, it's like completely hypothetical when it comes to Abby and Libby. I want to make that clear. We do not know if they were killed by Garett. I have pros and cons that we will go through at the end, but I can tell you right now, it's still going to be, that is the question. That's why I picked that. Like, and I did put his face on there. I don't know if you could tell or not, but I superimposed his face on that Shakespeare Hamlet picture. Because I just, I don't have a clue who the killer is. I wish I did. I wish it would just be done and he would be known and this would be over. But I don't, and I'm not going to claim to. I'm not, it's just not. I just hope I don't know him, honestly. I know I've heard other YouTubers that live around here say that, but seriously, it's a huge thing. It worries me. But the template just basically goes through his, does he fit? And honestly, there are a lot of pros. He does have, and I do believe that he would have continued to kill because he enjoyed it. He didn't kill in a defense way at all. That's not what he did. It wasn't in fear of his life. He killed, seemingly, we're not sure of the motives, but I just don't think that we have enough information to be able to say whether he did or not. But there are some interesting things, especially with him and the 14-year-old girl. That was in January. So you have that, and the way that was worded was, he said it was like a double negative. So it's almost like, did that just cancel it out? When I read it, that's what I was thinking. I don't even know if that's the right, definition of a double negative, but he said they can't prove it, or I have an alibi. In my family, like he separated it to where it was like in a family who says I was home all night, but the way it was worded was just kind of like, whoa. Makes you kind of wonder if the kids that have been talking, there isn't a little bit of truth to that. I've heard that from sources outside of Facebook, just because I do have family, but we don't know. That could be made up to get people to leave this case alone, because I think that people involved in this case have damaged it in a way. And sometimes that's not always a positive. Having all of the media attention isn't a positive. It doesn't work in the investigator's best interest, and especially the victim's best interest. But then again, on the flip side of that, when you have cases that are completely ignored, that's not in the victim or the victim's family's best interest either. It is one of 4 things. Let's see if I agree. Lack of self-control, power, lack of emotional stability, and bullied. I feel you on the lack of control and power, and obviously emotional instability. But yeah, that was a part of that template. Like he has that. He was born February 7th of 1998. So he was 19 at the time, of Delphi. I know he has at least one older brother. I don't know. I know his family. He comes from a divorced household, and his mother did have a restraining order out on his dad, and his family, or not his family, but someone in the group who seemed to know quite a lot about him, that was verifiable, had said that he watched his mom beat up, his dad beat up his mom, and that his dad was an alcoholic. In the video that I cut off, he talks about that. He talks about his, addiction being a disease, and that he had just overcome it, which was just before Delphi. But then in a later post in 2018, he posted that he had been sober since September of 2017, which would have been after Delphi. So that kind of coincides with what his relative had said in the groups as well. Getting into bed. That sounds amazing. I'll be up all night, though. I don't ever sleep. I just get out. I sleep on the couch. Have for like 15 years now. I think 10, 15 years. I can't stay in beds. Could BG also have been bullied? Yeah, I think that if the Delphi killer is Garett Kirts, it's because either by target or non-target, he approached them and they rebuffed him in some way, and he went psycho, because that's just who he is. Like, he literally he's the type that is, he thinks he's God's gift to women, and something like that. Like, if they saw him, were like, ooh, I could see him losing his mind and killing them in an act of rage that would still be, because I do feel like he is a psychopath. It would still be that, like I said before, that sexual motivation doesn't always have to be like, I feel like everybody's out looking for some child predator, when I don't think that fits real well with this crime. But he has a criminal history a mile long. Started when he was a minor. He was charged with assault and battery and something bodily injury and minor in consumption when he was 17. And he even showed the ankle bracelet because he was super proud of that. You know, that's kind of the kid he is. He gets on Facebook and you can literally figure out, you can do a psychological autopsy on the kid, a forensic autopsy on the kid just by Facebook. It's crazy. Like he's not real stealth. It seems like he was raised by both parents, but in separate homes. I'm not sure when they got divorced. He did not spend time in an orphanage. These are some of the questions they ask you of, like, what type of killer. And I said disorganized. I mean, he's super disorganized, but I don't know as far as the other elements of that, like where he would fit, like what Chris is saying. What would be, and that's kind of when you get into the motive. But he did go to a youth rehab. It's called White. I can't remember the rest of the name of it, but so he does have that history. I don't know why he was there, but he was there. They have a bunch of different programs, and it appears that he was passed around a lot by all boys. So, and then you've got the dentist, which is, you know, just those things in the behaviors in the history of a person that can set them up to where they can not help. You know, if they're aggravating circumstances in your past, if you already have that nature of being able to kill. I don't think it's JK. A lot of men think they're God's gift to women, but not me. I can see that. But yeah, like he thinks that but see, then again, it's almost like I think he hides behind that. And I think he's really, you know, the whole study of like ego, like, is it ego or arrogance or whatever? And like, he doesn't have, it's very surface, and he's really just very offended very easily, hurt feelings, you know, it's always someone else's fault. Just everything that we really read in the psychology of a serial killer. He was raised by grandparents and different relatives on and off. So that was one of the questions they had asked. We don't know what his IQ. I don't even know if he graduated high school. I think he did go to like an alternative school, and he does have a degree, but I'm not going to say 100%. He did not serve in the military. I don't think he ever applied to be a cop. I'm not sure why they asked these, but I'm guessing Ed Kemper. But his jobs were a horse breaker, which that's another thing of his psychopathy, is he was a freaking animal abuser. I mean, it doesn't take, and I had them pulled up and I was going to show you guys, but they're disgusting and I don't want to look at them. But like I said, you can do a forensic autopsy on the kids' Facebook, and the horses, when they got them, they looked completely different than when he was finished with them. Yeah, that's the rumor. I've heard that too, Christine, that he did call him, but we don't, I mean, there's no way to like know for sure, but sometimes you have to just decide, like, do you trust this person? Or, you know, you have to like go with some assumptions, but I try not to. But yeah, that has been said. And you know, there's just that difference between that false ego, to where it comes off as cocky and arrogant, and they're usually the ones that have to say all the time, I don't care about what anybody thinks of me, blah blah blah. Like, when people say that a whole lot, it's usually the opposite is true. It's like they care way too much. They just care like way too much, but it comes off. They try to come off as very egotistical when really they have a very low self-worth and self-esteem. And but the way it's displayed, it makes it look like they are, egotistical and arrogant, but underneath that they're not at all, which is the emotional instability and the bullied. Like when someone is bullied, you're constantly trying to like overcome that throughout your life, and then you add in a shaky home life and all the other factors. You got a kid that's very unstable. He likes power. He likes control. He likes, you try to track down the source of all of the rumors that blame Kirts for the murders. Oh, yeah, right. No, ever since that presser came out, like it has just literally been nonstop. I do have files, but I have all of everything from his cousin and anyone that I researched and thought was credible. That's why I threw out the whole revenge killing with the drug thing, because it doesn't fit at all. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I know, I need to go to bed soon too. Was going to meet a 19, if that was true, which I had heard that a long time ago from someone that like knows her friends, just like outside of Facebook, just because of who I know. And so when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, because I'd heard that before. Does it mean that either one were true? No. And yeah, he did thank you for bringing that up, Christine. He did bring up the Shaq comment. However, there was no Shaq with Nicole. So that is irrelevant as it applies to her. It was a shipping container. But the relevancy for me with the Shaq night is it's him bragging and trying to point out how manly he is yet again. Remember the shed night? And I got you all those girls, and what were their ages? Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's such a bragger. He can't keep his mouth shut for nothing. Oh, they're not reliable at all. No, they're definitely not, Chris. They're not reliable. I think they're all lying, but I'm trying to not talk about the cases as much as I can interchangeably, because this is about Delphi. And when I talk about Nicole and Ray, like it's about them. But obviously we have to talk a little bit because we already know that he has killed, and more than likely he would go on to kill. And that's why we have got, like, I pray to God, whatever it takes to keep that kid behind bars for the rest of his life, we will all be safer. Like, at the end of the day, I pray that happens, because I really do feel like he is a threat to society and should not have any mitigating circumstances, because there are so many aggravating on what he did to Nicole and Ray. And there's a pattern there. There's a pattern of behavior. You saw it. Like, he started out with his girlfriend strangling her. And if that account is true, he did it over and over again. And that takes a certain kind of sick. And then he graduated to killing. Let's say he didn't kill Abby and Libby, and that's where he started, because he really went downhill. You see what I'm saying? As far as crimes, like, he didn't. Abby and Libby were just like, whoa, like completely different. Like, I do think that there was rage and anger and impulsivity with Delphi, but then he just goes to strangling his girlfriend. And then I don't know. It just sounds like from the totality of everything they always say, like that Delphi was so brutal. And I just don't, you don't see that pattern very often where they like regress, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that was the comment about the alibi. Like he had said that and then he died. Like he stated it twice in the same sentence of I have an alibi. Good thing my family says I was home all night. So it's just either poor sentence structure or he was talking out of his ass because he didn't have an alibi. But I would really like to know more about who that 14-year-old girl is for sure. Another reason I don't think it's him. Oh, but about like regressing. I mean, we simply don't know how Abby and Libby died. We have reached conclusions based on things we've heard from what we feel like are reliable sources, but we weren't there. We didn't see it. We don't know. So we have to trust the word of others. And the only thing that we do know is they were murdered. And it really shook them. You could feel it. You could see it. Like it shook all of them. They were shook. So it had to have been unordinary. I don't know. I just felt like the vibe. You could just feel it when you saw the investigators. Like they were, and a lot of them were really seasoned. Yeah. Are they seasoned in a ton of child murders? No. No one should be. But they just seemed they were disturbed by what they saw and they're haunted. And you can just see it when in their faces. If you watch and you study body language at all, like you can literally just see it. Which body language is so fascinating. Yeah, I mean, he's just an idiot. Like they've told so many stories. Yeah, they're not reliable at all. And I don't think that, they all weren't involved in Delphi. Mathis was in jail. So we know he's not a part of it, even though like he did look like it to me, but he was in jail. So it's not him. But no, I don't think he was doing it for Ashley. I literally I just don't believe that. There's no basis for that whole scenario. That doesn't mean that I don't think he could be the Delphi killer. I just think that the motive is completely different. I think that it would be more suitable and more proof-based with him hitting on a 14-year-old girl or him living in the area, him knowing the bridge, him not having a job, him being lonely, like him anything other than anything to do with Libby's dad. There's no proof of it. You just simply don't go back. Like you just don't turn over state's evidence for someone that had a probation violation. It's just doesn't make any sense. But his family, yes, you're right. Like his family said that he came to where her grandpa lived and he was completely out of it. Like his mom, she even said like his mom had to dress him. Like he was inconsolable. And if you study a profile, like that is a part of it. Their behavior changes. They'll either like go away, they'll change how they look, but something about their behavior changes after the crime. And if you're paying attention, you can see that. And with him, obviously that would be a huge, like, oh my gosh, that's completely different. She had said, we thought he was coming off of spice. But looking back, now that we know that old sketch of the old man isn't right, it could be him. I mean, and you got to remember, like, it was right after he had murdered Nicole, his last victim, hopefully, if they don't let him out, that presser took place. Like, the timing of it was another thing. But yeah, you're right, Nick. Like, it could have been for, he was detoxing. He was trying to do it on his own and get clean. He could have been lying about saying he was sober in that video that he did in January. Like, that he could have been hiring 10 hippies. He could have been high the whole time he said he was sober in 2017 and 2018 after the murders. But drugs do play a role in the the profile of a psychopath. Yeah, he did. He said he was going to Texas when he was just really hiding under his girlfriend's bed in Zionsville, Indiana. So he's not real bright. And I'm telling you what, Facebook is a gem for information. I mean, y'all, like, people just share way too much. They really do. I mean, you got to lock that shit down, and your about me should be just about empty, and everything else should not have anything that can, like, because you can. I mean, I can do a complete history, like family history, and a forensic, autopsy on someone based on their Facebook or Instagram and Twitter or YouTube. It's crazy, but it is helpful, and investigators use it all the time. I mean, Cece Moore talks about it on every episode that I've seen so far, how she uses Facebook to find people. And, like, that's a big thing why I think a lot of the sleuths have been able to solve some crimes. Because people just overshare these days. It's not like the old days. Yeah, the truth does need to come out. And the pros for him, like, I'm not even convinced that he is heterosexual. And I've said that before. And if you want to hear that again, you can listen to it on the podcast. But he, the psychological profile was abused drugs, yes. Abused alcohol, yes. Been to a psychologist prior to the killing, yes. Time in a forensic hospital, I don't think so, but he was in that youth home. We don't know if he has any diagnostics as far as his mental health, but he should. He's committed previous crimes, absolutely. I honestly, like, I hope they really know about Stephen Masterson. I hope that they know for sure that was an accident, because I don't know. I just feel like he had something to do with it. I can, like, see it happening, and I feel like he hit him in the back of his moped, and that's why he flew over. And they had been in a fight on Facebook, of course, like, not even a month, maybe 2 months before. Like, Stephen Masterson had said, like, dude, I don't want nothing to do with you. Like, you're an idiot. You, like, this is why I don't hang out with you, because you're always trying to start shit. Like, you're so immature. Grow up. I don't want anything to do with you. And they went back and forth through a ton of comments, and he was basically just calling him out and telling him he was an idiot along with everybody else, and him trying to prove how badass he is. But something like that, when you assault someone's ego, that's really a fake ego, they will hold that against you, and they will keep it until they can get their revenge. That's just kind of like how he works. So I feel like he could have. And he says that he went down there and cut off his helmet with his knife that he had in his pocket. So he carries knives around. And like, he just so happened to be the one behind him after they just so happened to get in this Facebook fight. like, I don't know, just a little too many coincidences there. So I hope they have investigated his death and made sure that was an accident, because that might have been his first crime. He did write a song about killing a man, so there's that. I thought it was lyrics from someone else's song, but it wasn't. So I'm pretty sure it was his. And he's done that. Like, he writes like lyrics or poems or whatever. Being sent to a conversion therapy, being passed around, and coming out and having to pretend to be straight while still on Grindr can create so much crazy for a teenage boy. Yeah, especially around here. I mean, things are definitely changing and moving in the right direction as far as acceptance, but they definitely ain't there yet. I mean, he has a lot of identity type crisis, and knowing who he is and being stuck in that toxic masculinity, or accepting himself. And I talked about that a lot on the podcast as far as his sexual preferences. Like, yeah, I think that he wanted to be straight, but I don't think that he necessarily was. And I don't really know. Because I'm attracted to men, and I've always felt like you're born with that. Like, you're born gay. Like, you're born with that. And like, I don't know, I may be completely wrong, but I don't think that your sexual preference is really so much up to choice, I guess. I think you can maybe say it's up to force, but choice, I don't think so. And that's why I don't really understand bisexuality. I don't get it, because I just couldn't. I don't think I could do it, but I don't understand it, so I should just shut up about it. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that he had they had a very toxic relationship, like, so toxic. Yeah, it is, Christine. So toxic and explosive. And I think that they both benefited from that with their pathologies. I think that they fed off of each other, and I think that he had because like a person that in a domestic violence, like, that person doesn't love, like, the things that they do are not out of a good place, like love. They're out of control, or the lack of control, feeling like you're going to lose control of that person. And so they become this, like, thing that you try to dig in and hold on to so bad. And to me, I just often wonder if he tried to hold on to her so bad to prove to himself that he was manly. Like, obviously he thought it was super cool that he was with an older chick. He said it, at one point I got a 23-year-old girlfriend and I'm 17 and I've been living with her. Like, that's, this big accomplishment in life. We're okay, cool. Like, most people are just like, you're such an idiot. Like, the things that he was very immature. And, but yeah, like, the victims are all completely different. So you really can't do anything with that. The way that they were killed, sort of similar, different circumstances, but sort of similar. I mean, he could still even be considered maybe a spree killer. Like, we really don't even know if he is considered a serial killer. 2 or more over a length of a period of time. A period of time is that 2 weeks? It could be. depending on a bunch of other factors. And he has all of those other factors. So I would say that he is a serial killer instead of a spree killer, but that's just me. Really? I didn't know that, Christine. That is interesting. Huh. I want to know more about that. But, you know, with Ray, like, it was we just don't know enough about the circumstances of them to really say, like, is this a freaking a serial? Is this a series of a serial killer? Like, if he is the Delphi killer, or if that is his first kill, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I get that feeling. Like, I just feel like he had something to do with Masterson's accident. I would love to talk to his family. If anyone knows them, like, I would love to just ask them a few questions. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel like it was an accident. I don't know. But neither here nor there, I guess. But if he did, like, you know, that's really young, you know, and we already know that he had it in him. Like, he'd kill animals. He don't care. Like, he doesn't value life at all. And so that makes him psychopathic. But yeah, like, as far as pros and cons, there's a ton of pros. There really are. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've said a lot of them. He has killed in a way that is a certain kind of sick. His history and profile fit if the murders happened in a certain way with Delphi. I think he's brutal. He lacks empathy. He lacks self-control. He has a quick temper. He is sadistic and physically capable. He lived in the area. He knew the area. He had many friends in the area. And I'm not talking about the apartment. It doesn't, like, it's irrelevant to me because it could have been in Tennessee. Brixton is in the area. Lebanon is in the area, in my opinion. I do consider him local. He knew the property. We think he may have known the owner. He may have even worked for Mears. Like, I would like to know more, but he says that in his things to Stephen Masterson, like, when we worked baling hay at Mears Farm together. Is there a lot of Mears farms around? Like, all of the Mears land is literally all the way down. I mean, it goes not quite all the way to Camden or whatever, but it's pretty, they own a lot, but it's all right there along Deer Creek and then just on the other side of 300. So that's another thing. And yeah, the apartment is not that close. It's just not. Like, because you lived in those apartments in the middle of Delphi, like, doesn't mean that you would go venture to the bridge or know where the bridge is. That's why I just don't like. And then she lives somewhere else after that. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think you really get, you know, when you move out of an apartment, you don't normally move back a few years like later. It's just not logical. But yeah, I mean, the Mears, they own a ton of property all the way around RLs and down and on the other side of 300. I mean, it goes pretty far. And they own some property in other places as well. So he could have worked there. But here you got Mears Farm. So it's kind of like, maybe. But, you know, like me and Sharon, I know we don't agree. Like, I think she feels that the revenge and all, like, that is the motive. And She think, I feel like she may think that he is the Delphi killer. And while I don't disagree that he very well could be, I just think that the story behind it is completely different than her. And I can remember when the guy the podcaster, the big idiot, when he and y'all know who I'm talking about, when he just really screwed over that family, and it makes me very mad. But in my case that's such a debacle. So yeah, can't stand that. But I was listening and commenting live when all of that got twisted around, and I had even called him out on it, and it didn't correct it. And so that's how I know that story got messed up in there. And then it just spread like freaking wildfire. And there are a lot of people that feel he is, or that he could be. And some days I feel like he is. Some days I feel like he's not. It just depends on the day. And I talk myself in and out of it. I don't think the audio. Oh, yeah. Definitely agree with you on that one, Sharon, for sure. And that's the thing, is remember those things: vulnerability, availability, all those abilities. Like, he fits a lot of those. Like, he had a lot of those. And that's why, yeah, like, way more stuff to support him than Thomas Bruce, or what was that other guy, Charles Eldridge, even the first one, what was that guy's, Daniel Nations. I mean, way more. But just because of the availability, like he was like, I don't know. To me, it's just not. You're not applying Occam's razor when you're going with like, oh, it's like this traveler who was like traveling through and just so happened to find that. Like, trust me, you're just not. It's hard to get to, even when you know where it is, because it's really confusing out there. So I just don't see it. I think that they're right on the money, and they've known that from the beginning, that it's somebody local. And Nations, that's not local. Like, Greenwood is nowhere near Delphi. Like, I mean, he might as well have been in Tennessee. But then again, like, it's all about, were they available? Were they the locality of it, the availability, the vulnerability of the victimology, all of that. And he fits more of those categories than anyone else I've ever seen. But yet the cons seem to outweigh all of the pros, any of the pros that we could come up with, which there's a lot. They reframed the case right after he was arrested. But he has the general build. He's a male and he's white. He fits the general like weight and the height and the hair. I mean, if you like that sketch. But he fits the age. I don't know. There's a lot that fits, but then again, you could find that with anyone that you don't like. The friends. I mean, he was friends with Libby's cousin. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot more there than anyone else I've ever seen. Plus the criminal behaviors. A recent release. I want to talk to someone who has been in Newton County Jail with him. What he says to his cellmates about it. Right. And that's one of the things that's a con for me is, or not a con, but it could be like in the pro too, with the biggest cons for me is he's a dumbass. Like, he is so dumb, and he is so impulsive and quick tempered and like he's unsophisticated, he's impulsive, and he's got a big mouth. He loves bragging, and he confessed to both Ray and Nicole. Nicole was within a day. Like, as soon as he was arrested, he left evidence everywhere. It was very sloppy, and he was caught within one day. Oh, yeah. I've heard some like just literally some disgusting like things coming out of what they're saying and doing in the jail. And I mean, like, people are accusing him of killing a doctor as well. I've seen that one, and that was like put out supposedly by Ashley's family of all places. Like, I don't know. Mike Cunningham actually sent me that. And so that was like, holy shit. Like, who is this doctor? And it was definitely in a different sentence. But do I trust that person? Do I trust like her sister? Hell no. Like, I think they would say and do just about anything. So you got to know where your information is coming from. Yeah. I mean, but maybe the jail, I mean, he's up there just like running the show at the jail, but like, and that's what it's like, could he keep Delphi a secret? And I think the only reasonable explanation is if he was embarrassed of it. But then with like the way he's acting in jail, he's not embarrassed of anything. Like, he, you know, if he thought that his life would be threatened if he bragged about it. I mean, killing 2 girls is, when you're in prison, I mean, you're gonna be, that's a whole different bag of burritos. I mean, you're just like, whew. Said she had heard he killed a doctor too. And then like I've heard stuff like they're bragging about killing, you know, like it's just crazy. I don't know. What'd Nick say? No, Ray was a nurse, and the message I saw, that was the thing that I was like, oh, because it was he killed Ray Hanish. He was a nurse, but he also killed a doctor. So it's like, that they were talking about 2 different people. But again, you know, the source of the information, like, and their motives. And it's just a sister of Ashley Garrett who definitely have some motives that might not be in the best interest of us to listen to. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like the cons with him, I mean, he was caught in one day. He left evidence everywhere. The only thing that I could see is if he just happened to be walking that bridge, he's feeling down about his life because he loved to have pity parties for himself. High, whatever, it don't matter. And he walked past them and they like, ew, you know, they weren't interested in him. And he just popped off and he brutally murdered them. Like, I could see that happening. And I could see it happening as well, that they were targeted by him, that not to kill them, but the possibility of it. Maybe it was something that he had thought about because he's sick, but that he did know them prior to, or one of them, and he lured them there. I could see him doing that. Not that that's what happened. Neither one of those scenarios are that's what happened. They're just us, you know, hypothesizing. But that I could see him, and he shows up thinking he's all cool, and they're like, nah, ain't you. Yeah, like, you misrepresented yourself, buddy. Like, I don't know who you are. And then that would piss him off because of his personality. So yeah, I can totally see him killing someone out of that. But yeah, that statement about the doctor was strange because I just assumed I'd seen it floating around, and I just assumed that they were just thinking that was Ray, and they called him a doctor instead of a nurse, because we go to the hospital a ton for my child. And there's so many times I was like, oh my gosh, please, can we have the nurse practitioner? Like, I don't know, like doctors sometimes are just, they're too specialized for their own good. But I'm glad we have them. But man, sometimes like the nurses are better. And so, yeah, like I thought that too, that they were just probably thinking he was a doctor. But this sentence structure was definitely separated. And they knew the nurse, like Ray was a nurse and he killed him. But he also killed a doctor that nobody knows about. So that is a strange statement. I even asked Dave Bangert about it. And because I respect the hell out of that guy. And I think that if I unplug my Ethernet, will this go off? Anybody know? Because we're going to find out. But yeah, I just think that those two scenarios, and then I can see I'm moving. I need a smoke break. But I could see him. Just give me a second. But yeah, I mean, I could see him popping off. And even if it's true, if we hypothesize that it is true, the brutality against Libby, then he fits that profile of, like, who do you think you are? You think you're, tougher, better than me? I'll show you. And then just unleash all that pent up anger in that moment, and probably even surprised himself. But him being able to clean up the crime scene, you lose me right there. And him being able to get away with it for this long, like that's where I can't make that make sense in my mind. Like I can't. I just can't. I mean, unless he had help. And who are the only, like, there's only a few people that you could really call if you committed, even if it was like a justifiable homicide. I could call my mom and my dad. And probably my husband. I say I'm married, but I'm not. I'll never get married again. But we've been together for 12 years. Like he might. If it was, but against two kids, hell no. I'm not even sure that my own parents would. So, like, he would have to have help covering up and staging that crime scene and making it look like someone else did it, because he is just not that deep. Like, I could see him completely panicking. Oh my God, what have I done? He hears Derek calling, and he comes out of his blind rage and just like panics and calls his dad. Maybe he calls the dentist. I don't know. That's just the scenario that I could see playing out. And that's why they don't have what they need for him. If it's true that the FBI are still talking to his mom, then you have to think of him as a suspect. Like, but there's, see, I do it. Every time I talk about him, I go back and forth. like, yeah, there had to be just so much blood, and I don't like talking about that. It just feels so wrong. But yeah, I just don't think left something behind, and outdoor crime scene left overnight wouldn't be that hard to clean up because it was outdoors. Yeah, it'd be easier than inside for sure, especially when you have a creek. But if the brutality that is rumored is true, you got to think like transfer DNA, touch DNA, fingerprint DNA, hair. Yeah, he had a bunch of clothes on, and it did look like that person on the bridge, the killer, like he came prepared because he sure had a lot of shit on. Like, that's all I have to say about that. But then again, I see pictures all the time on my own Facebook feed of men, and that's just like what they wear around, Carhartts and freaking hiking backpacks, like in jeans that were cool in, the 80s and 90s. Just what I see. So I don't know. I think that someone that was going out there to really hike and like go across that bridge, like a lot of, especially men, just with their mentality, like they would go prepared. I will like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk and just take off in my flip-flops and regret it halfway through. But like my husband, I'm going for a walk, got to get my tennis shoes, got to get the right socks, he's got to like, really go for a walk. So it could have been that he just happened to have, or he could have gone there with the intent to kill someone, anyone, or it could have been they were targeted. There's just so much we don't know. But where he said I quit true crime. Oh my gosh, sorry. That made me really laugh. If Kirts is the Delphi. Oh, why did I make it go away? If Kirts is the Delphi suspect, I quit true crime. But Nick, don't you think that like sometimes, especially with these cases, that they get all of your attention, and you're just like, oh, you're just so focused on it that a lot of times when we can take ourselves outside of ourselves and look at something, it's usually a lot simpler than we've built it up to be, and like anticlimactic, I guess. But and that's another huge con, though. On the opposite of that, he is so anticlimactic. Like, they say that we're going to be so surprised, it's just going to, everybody's just going to be shocked. Like, he's not shocking. And they don't have to tell us the truth. And they don't have to tell us the truth that the suspect's not currently in prison or jail. Like, they don't owe us the truth. Point blank, period. And we like to think that they do, but they don't. Exactly. We live in the desert, and my husband packs a full cooler just to leave the house for an hour. Water, snacks, sunscreen. Men are just handy creatures. Yeah, exactly. Like, mine's the same. And they could have just happened to have been super prepared. Like I said, I see those, and it always creeps me out. And that's immediately what made me think of it when they released that video. When I saw that the object appears to be more fixed to where your clothing moves with the very tiny bit of frame we have, that object is structured. And so it looks like one of those knives. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Christine, that you wear on your shoulder. Like, it's a part of your hiking gear, but like you're, just a utility knife or hunting knife or whatever. It goes right there, and they stick up kind of just behind your shoulder. And then you have like the backpack too. But I swear to God, that's what he has with him. Like, I will quit true crime if that's not true, Nick. Like a Hunger Games knife. Hunger Games. Ooh, loved those. I'm trying to think of which character you're talking about. Not like where, it's some big old fighting sword, but sometimes it's just as simple as a hook knife. Like that's what you use when you go deer hunting, is a utility type knife. And we just go hiking a lot. We've been deer hunting. I've been deer hunting. I don't do it. I can never kill an animal, but that's what we did for our vacations for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. All over the states was deer hunting with the entire family. Like it was a nightmare. And talk about a freaking Alfred Hitchcock movie. Terrifying. Like now that I look back on it, we stayed in like school buses that were converted into RVs, and there were deers hanging from all of the trees. Like, cause they would cut them open and drain the blood out. And like, that's what you use. And a lot of people carry those around with them, especially if they're hunting. But I don't think you can hunt in that area, so that's kind of moot. Yeah, you could put any knife in them that you want, like that, whether it be a straight blade, whatever. It doesn't matter. But the ones I've seen are usually those the one, like just the hunting or hiking, like if you needed to cut your way through underbrush or vines or whatever, or like when we're in the mountains or whatever, sometimes cords and things that get caught, or you want to fix something that someone else left behind. I see that a lot. And knives are handy. I always have a knife with me, not for protection. I have my gun for that, but just because, I don't know, I guess just that's the culture I grew up with. You just carry a knife. Yeah, Nick, I just don't know. I can see that. Like I could see him being this, like I have this other suspect that I have just not been able to let go of from the very beginning. And I've actually seen him in person. And yeah, like this guy, and I won't name him because, that's not cool. And I have no clue. But like I said, with those forensic autopsies on Facebook, and then just like, yeah, like there's that I could see, and he would be someone that would be like that. Everybody loves, like that Cheers guy of the town. Like, oh, everybody knows him, but no one really knows him, kind of a person. But everyone just assumes that he's just this awesome dude because everybody knows who he is. But he hides behind that like facade, that fake smile, that like I'm the happy-go-lucky guy that, that's just always giving people a smile, but really you're just like stalking people. Like he's super creepy to me. And if it was him, it would shock everyone. So yeah, I could see it being him or someone like him.